All right, thanks everyone for joining us this morning. I do see that the live stream is up and running. I'm just wanting to send a meeting link to one of our members who doesn't seem to have it. So I'm just going to do that real quick here. We are going to start this morning with the election of officers. However, since we have a number of new committee members, I was wondering if everyone would feel comfortable going around and just kind of introducing themselves and saying just a small little bit about maybe your background or your interest in the arts community, just before we go ahead and get started on the election of officers. So I'm not sure who would like to start us off. Feel free to unmute and speak up. I'll start picking.
Should staff, do you want us to start?
Sure,
Okay.
That sounds great. Thanks, Danica.
Okay, we can start and then we'll turn it over to the members of this committee. It's really good to be here. My name is Danica Lougheed. I'm the manager of arts and sector development with Arts and Culture Services at the City of Kingston. So I come to these Arts Advisory Committee meetings with you fairly regularly, and I will sort of be your main sort of staff contact. Prior to joining the city, I was the ED of the Kingston Arts Council. So I've been working in the local arts community here for about 7-8 years now. So really happy to be with this committee and to welcome the new members. Maybe I'll go to Colin next.
Thanks, Danica, and welcome from me as well. I work alongside Danica. I'm Colin Bigginton, the Director of Arts and Culture Services. We are a small but mighty team focused on arts and culture here in Kingston. We do function as a community arts development agency within the city, so we're very much looking forward to having your involvement with that work. And I have a background myself in the visual arts. I worked in public galleries for many years and also have a background in drama. So came to the city in my role in 2009.
We'll turn it over to Councillor Shaves. Go ahead, please.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Paul Shaves, councillor for Loyalist Kawarapui District and newly elected first-time councillor. And I am the city council representative for this committee. So thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. Matthew, I see your hand.
Sure. I thought I'd just volunteer. I have somewhat limited chance maybe to have video and audio, but my name is Matthew Campbell. I moved to Kingston, I guess, a little over 4 years ago now. I'm a teacher now, but my background is in music theater for about 15-20 years. I spent about 5-6 years at the Charlottetown Festival of the Arts out on Prince Edward Island and different musicals around the country, and I'm happy to be here.
Excellent. Thanks so much. I'm going to go to Christiane. Did you want to go next?
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm Christiane Wojcik. I've been in Kingston, I guess, about 4.5 years. So locally, I'm the board president of Kingston School of Art, and I'm on the theater board with Domino Theater. My background is largely in administration and education. So locally, my day job, I'm the executive director of Kingston Literacy and Skills and the acting executive director of Literacy Link of Eastern Ontario. Prior to moving to Kingston, I was a department chair at a fine arts public charter school in Fort Worth, Texas for grades 3 through 12. So a lot of background in education and administration with the arts. Nice to meet everybody.
Excellent. Thanks so much. Elena, would you like to go next?
Hello, my name is Elena. I'm new to the committee this year. I'm a teacher and musician living in Kingston. I teach in schools, and I also teach flute and piano lessons out of my home. I play second flute in Orchestra Kingston in my free time, and I care a lot about arts advocacy and supporting artists in the community, so I'm really excited to be helping out this year.
Awesome. Thank you. Welcome. Mark, are you interested to go next?
Yeah, sure. Hi, I'm Mark Garnis. I'm the director of the Kingston Canadian Film Festival. I also work in music too. I'm co-founder of KPP Concerts, and we've been around for just over 20 years promoting independent concerts in Kingston, and the film festival's been around for equal amount of time, 23 years, and I've worked in film with the film festival for about 11 now. So yeah, music and film are my things.
Awesome, perfect. Alicia, would you be able to go next?
Hi, my name is Alicia Boudelier, and I am the Chief Curator and Curator of Canadian Historical Art at Agnes Etherington Art Center. I've been there and here for almost 15 years, and yeah, happy to continue to be part of this committee.
Excellent, we're happy to have you. Brianne.
Hi, everyone. My name is Brianne Franklin. I'm the director at the Tett Center for Creativity and Learning. I've been in this role for just over 1.5 years, but prior to that, I was the Program and Communications Coordinator at the Tett Center. And then before that, I worked just in the GTA at a creative arts hub as well. So very passionate about connecting communities and art advocacy. So very excited to be here. I served part of last year on this committee, so I'm really excited to be involved again.
Perfect, thanks. Ara.
Hello, my name is Ara McCauley, and I'm the Artistic Director of Kingston Writers Fest. I've worked with the festival in various roles for the past 8 years. I was also on the board of the Real Out Queer Film Festival for 8 years, and have dabbled in other performance activities throughout the years. So really interested in collaboration opportunities in the city, which I think is something that we do incredibly well. So yeah, that's why I'm here.
Perfect. Les, would you like to introduce yourself next?
For sure. Hi, folks. My name is Les Casson. I am the Dean of Creative Industries at St. Lawrence College. I'm also the Dean of Brockville campus, so I'm calling from beautiful Brock, Vegas today. I have been part of the Kingston Arts neighborhood for a long time. With St. Lawrence, I'm an educator, and my job now is to oversee and support and lift up all creative industry related programming across all 3 campuses and all 3 communities. And as part of that, I've been a part of the city's creative industries working group with Danica and Colin for the last 1.5 years, which has been tons of fun. But in my own stuff, I'm a bit of an arts generalist. I have worked as a musician in the community for longer than I want to admit, but have been happy to sort of lug drums around to a variety of venues in the area over the last number of decades. And I still play a little bit, but mostly my pointy head arts administrative educator day job takes up most of my time. But I'm really happy to be a part of this conversation, and happy to see some familiar faces and meet some new folks. So thanks for having me.
Excellent, welcome. And Nicole.
Hi, everyone. I am the Executive Director of the Kingston Arts Council. It is my 4th day on the job, but I've been in Kingston for about a decade. Previously, I was working as the Program and Communications Coordinator at the Tett Center. I've been on the Art and Public Places Working Group for, actually, I don't know how long, but a few meetings. And I've worked at a variety of different arts organizations in town. I've worked with Skeleton Mark Arts Festival, Union Gallery, and I worked on the Next Door temporary public art project as well. So happy to be here.
Excellent, thank you. Well, I guess I probably should have introduced myself first, now kind of looking back on it, but just for everyone's reference, I am Elizabeth Fawcett. I am the committee clerk for the Arts Advisory Committee. You will see me on for most of the meetings unless I'm out of the office, and I look after the committee in terms of the administration. So you'll be getting the agendas from me. I'm the one who takes the minutes and records the meetings. And so if you have any questions at all, if you need any help with anything, please never hesitate to reach out to either myself or Danica. We're always happy to assist in any way that we can. All right, so without further ado, we do need to go through our election of officers. So we are going to need a chair and a vice chair for this committee. Typically what we do is we ask anyone who's willing to volunteer if they wish to lead us through our meetings. If there is somebody who's interested in taking on that role this year, it would just be for the current calendar year with this committee. Do we have any volunteers who would like to take a stab at doing chair? with the caveat that I'm always here to assist. I am here as a resource. Okay, so is there anyone who's interested in the role of vice chair? Let's ask that question. If somebody was to be chair, would there be anyone who'd be willing to be backup for the chair?
I don't mind being vice chair. I don't know if I want to take on the whole chair responsibility, but I'm happy to be vice chair.
Okay. Thank you, Brian. That's great. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask our counselor in resident if he would be interested or willing to take the chair for us this time around, so that the committee can kind of get its feet under them. And then I'd ask whether or not you would like to revisit the role of chair at the next meeting, or if everyone is comfortable with Councillor Shaves stepping in and doing the role of chair for this year, we can revisit chair next year.
I don't think we should leave it that open just yet. Maybe what I should add is maybe this misconception of maybe the role, it's not really an authoritative type of role. It's just a matter of going through the agenda and making sure the process goes through and we touch all the items on the agenda. And I am a chair of one of the main standing committees in order to get the experience. It's a nice thing to do. It's not one of the big ones like planning, but Elizabeth is great. And I've watched a lot of the meetings over the past year or two on YouTube, and the city clerk office does a great job in guiding you. So don't have any fear of messing up, because I've seen over the years that even senior councillors on committees have been corrected by our clerks. And they do it in a very fine and nice way. So I would advise, if anyone would want to have the experience of guiding us through the meetings. And like I said, it's not really authoritative. It just, and this committee, I think it'd be a good opportunity for those. I think we may have a volunteer.
Thank you very much, Councillor Shaves. I really appreciate those words of encouragement. Matthew, did you want to?
I don't know if I'm volunteering so much as just, would the majority of the meetings be in the mornings, or would they potentially be later afternoon or evening? It's more an availability issue than anything.
Yeah, for this committee, we do stay at the 9:30 in the morning time slot on the second Thursday. So I don't see the time changing unless there was significant issue with the membership and being able to make the meeting. So would that prevent you from being able to step forward?
Are the month meetings are monthly? Is that correct?
Every other month.
Oh, then if they're every other month, I'd be happy to take on that role.
Okay, excellent. Well, thank you very much, Matthew. What I will do then is that I do need a mover and a seconder. So I see Councillor Shaves is going to move that Matthew be chair. Is there a seconder? I just need somebody to raise their hand if they agree. Okay, perfect. Thank you, Mark. And if there's no other volunteers for that role, I will call the vote. All those in favor for Matthew as chair. I'll just see a show of hands. Is there anyone opposed? And that carries. So Matthew, you will be chair. And just before I hand the floor over to you, I thank you, Brianne, for volunteering to be vice chair.
I'm so sorry. I should say with the caveat that today I'm very limited access to this meeting. So okay. I'm so sorry. Yeah, I'm going to have to turn my camera off and probably be kind of more listening today. So I'm sorry, I should have said that.
Okay, no, that's all right. Brianne, would you be able to assist us then if? Okay.
Absolutely. Excellent.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. So before we get there, Councillor Shaves, I see, are you going to move for Brianne to be?
That's where I was going, but I think you were going to go there anyways, but yes, I'll move for Brianne.
Okay, thank you very much. Do we have a seconder? And I see Les, thank you very much. Is there anyone else who would like to take on that role? Just one last pass through. Seeing no movement, we'll call a vote then. All those in favor for Brianne as vice chair? Show of hands. Perfect, thank you. Any opposed? And that carries. So with that, I will turn the floor over to Brianne so that you can go ahead and finally call the meeting to order and we can get started on our agenda.
Great, awesome. Thank you, Elizabeth. And please jump in if you know, there's certain language that I need to use. I was vice chair actually last year for like a couple of meetings, but yeah. So I will call the meeting to order at 9:45 a.m. And we'll start with an approval of the agenda. Does everyone approve? Are there any additions? Elizabeth, do we need a mover and seconder to approve the agenda?
We will, please. Thank you.
Perfect. Okay, so thank you, Les, for moving the agenda and Matthew for seconding. And moving right along, the confirmation of minutes from our last meeting held on Thursday, November 10th. Can we have an approval and seconder for that? Ara, thank you for moving that, and Mark. And are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest?
Sorry, Brianne, just to jump in, if we can just do a vote on that as well, just all in favor.
Oh, great. Okay, of course. Thank you. So all in favor of approval of the minutes? Perfect. Thank you. Thank you, Elizabeth. And are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest today? No. Great. And we'll move on to delegations. Elizabeth, can you jump in here?
Yes, today we do not have any delegations, so we can just move on to the briefing.
Perfect. That's great. Thank you. So briefing today is from Danica for the committee orientation. So over to you, Danica.
Thank you very much, Brianne. So I'm just going to walk everyone through a little presentation that sort of supports the report that you all received that really focuses on the orientation and some priority setting for 2023. Slide, please. So just to start, you know, Colin and I work as part of Arts and Culture Services, and Colin gave a little bit of information about what we are and how we function as a community cultural development agency for the city. So we do this in a variety of ways, and I'll touch on this a little bit later in the presentation, but I just wanted to start and sort of ground this committee in the acknowledgement that Kingston is an incredibly rich arts and cultural community. Many of the people around this table, you know, directly contribute to that, either, you know, as administrators, artists, or as audience members and participants of the arts. So it's just a bit of a snapshot of some amazing things that happen. I wanted just to include the film festival. Mark just came off the 2023 film festival here in Kingston. We have the Writers Festival, which Era is the artistic director of. And then I've included a couple of other images just around some other artist-focused programs that happen here in Kingston. So lots to celebrate and to work on here in the arts community. Slide, please. So just to start, a little bit of an overview of the mandate of the Arts Advisory Committee. This is an incredibly important committee. It really helps to create clear lines of communication between the arts community and the City of Kingston to really help us ensure that any arts policies, strategies, and programs that are being created through the city are actually responsive to the needs of the community as they currently exist. The committee is primarily responsible for supporting various programs like the City of Kingston Arts Fund and participating in working groups, which we'll get to later in the presentation. And then ultimately provide guidance to staff around how we can continue to nurture cultural vitality here in Kingston. This is something that was named in the city's first ever culture plan in 2010, really focused on enhancing Kingston's identity and enriching the cultural life of residents, as well as newcomers, audiences, and visitors. Slide, please. So in extending out of the mandate, the purpose of this committee is really to help us ensure implementation of the Kingston Culture Plan. This plan has technically expired. It was created in 2010, as I mentioned. It was a 10-year plan. So in 2020, in the midst of the pandemic, it came to a close. It has been ultimately fully implemented at this stage. And so For Colin and I, this is a big priority for us going forward to facilitate a renewal of this culture plan that sort of lays out the next 5 to 10 years for arts and culture in Kingston with the support of this committee. Another big important purpose for this committee is to keep us informed of any changing conditions and opportunities in the arts, and then bringing to us, feedback and information on the impact of various arts programs, strategies, and policies in Kingston. And the final point here around purpose is around maintaining some linkages with Heritage Kingston and its working groups to ensure sort of a coordinated effort of implementation. And the reason this is noted here is that previously arts, culture, and heritage were all part of one department called Cultural Services. We've since become 2 distinct departments, arts and culture and heritage. And so maintaining some level of connection with Heritage Kingston is important for us going forward. Slide, please. Something else that the Arts Advisory Committee is responsible for doing, and this will be sort of a joint collaborative effort between Elizabeth as the clerk, the chair of this committee, Matthew, and myself, is to develop a report card on the activities of the committee every year. It typically comes forward to this committee in May, and so we will need to work on the 2022 report card again, which will be a little challenging for new members, but we're here to support that process. And I included here so just some highlights from the last available report card from the Arts Advisory. Things happened like they received delegations around a variety of arts topics, received various staff briefings and reports on different priorities, participated in working groups, which again is a priority for this year, and then provided feedback for and approved the City of Kingston Arts Fund that gives money directly to arts organizations, collectives, and artists in Kingston. Next slide. So as I've sort of alluded to, a lot of the context for the Arts Advisory is that it's rooted and guided by various existing city plans, strategies, and policies and programs. Some of them are listed here in terms of the Kingston Culture Plan, which I've spoken about. We also have a public art master plan that also is up for renewal to really lay out a new strategy for public art in Kingston. And then we also have the creative industries strategy, which was the most sort of recent arts and culture-based strategy approved by council back in April 2021 that really identifies how economic development opportunities can be strengthened for creative industries such as film, music, and theater. Slide, please. So as I mentioned, just a little bit of an overview of our department. So we really have different focus areas within our group. And the first one is around asset development and management. So probably familiar to most is facility management like the Kingston Grand Theatre. And we work collaboratively with TET staff and their board to support the ongoing management of the city-owned TET Center for Creativity and Learning. Perhaps less known is around capital public art as a form of asset development and management. So through our public art policy, we commission capital public art projects, which then in turn become part of our civic collection, which we have to maintain going forward. And then obviously managing the human resources side of everything. Programming is a big thing for arts and culture services as well, a strong focus for us. We have programs like Grand on Stage, a long-standing program like Grand on Stage, which is a presenting program at the Grand Theatre that brings together artists from all over for local audiences. And we also amplify that through engagement opportunities, working closely with local artists through that component. We have various public art projects, temporary community arts focused and professional development that is really about engaging and supporting local artists through this type of programming. We also have some other artist development programs like a fairly new program, which is the Local Arts Residency at the Kingston Grand Theatre, which opens up that space for local performing artists, and YGK Music Playlists, which feature local musicians on city playlists that get shared through various platforms across Kingston. And then finally, we do a variety of accessible summer arts programming for residents of all ages. So things like Rock in the Square, which is a large-scale free outdoor concert in Springer Market Square every summer. We work in partnership with long-term care homes to bring artists into those care homes to engage in arts programming. And we also work in partnership with other departments to sort of deliver connected community development programming, which is also a big focus for us for summer 2023. Next slide. These are just a couple of photos I threw in here, most recognizable for many. Obviously, one of the TET Center. To the top right-hand corner, we have one of our Capital Public Artworks, which is located at the intersection of Princess and Division. And then we have a couple of performing arts photos below of the residency and of Grand on Stage. So next slide, please. So the final two areas of our focus within our department are on sector development. This is where we work in partnership with groups like the Kingston Arts Council to deliver the City of Kingston Arts Fund and the Mayor's Arts Awards, and the Kingston Theatre Alliance around the Kick and Push Festival at the Grand and professional development opportunities. It's also where the TET Center falls as well in terms of both asset management, but also sector development work. So we provide support to their board of directors and work with the community engagement in the arts committee as well. And then obviously focusing through various strategies, implementation around things like professional development for creative industries. Finally, we focus on cultural community development, and this is really where this committee lies to really help that broader community development piece. It's where policy and strategy development lives. So as mentioned, the creative industries piece, but we also have a couple of strategic plans and policy updates in progress right now, including the development of a Kingston music strategy and amendments to our public art policy to create a better process to support artists and property owners to install murals on private property. So this is really where that strategic work lives. Additionally, things like partnerships in support of Emancipation Day, National Indigenous Peoples Day, and then as part of other special events like Intercultural Arts Festival. And last, but certainly not least, is cultural tourism. So working with partners like Tourism Kingston and their integrated destination strategy to ensure that arts and culture tourism is included there as well. Next slide. Again, these are just a couple of photos I wanted to throw in here. The top left is of our recent open house for the music strategy. The top right is an image from a past Kick and Push festival. On the bottom left, we have Havaya Mighty here. She was the headliner at Rock in the Square last summer, where we aligned with Emancipation Day programming. And then the bottom right is just an example of a temporary public art citywide project we ran with local artists. Next slide. So as we wrap up on the presentation, just a quick overview of some of the priority projects for the Arts Advisory Committee in 2023. We've broken it out into 3 buckets in terms of strategic work, investment, and then ongoing programs. So the first is around continuing to recognize the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic on the arts and culture sector and continue to have those sort of conversations with us about what needs to be done in response to those. And one of the ways this can help be facilitated is through invitations to the community to give delegations to this committee directly. It's also the supporting the continued implementation of our creative industry strategy and around the development of the Kingston music strategy. Something else that's on our work plan this year is around looking at a strategic business review of the Kingston Grand Theatre to optimize our venue operations. Incredibly, post-COVID, the venue has had its highest number of rentals. Audiences have been returning in a really big way for programming. And so we're looking at how to really ensure that it's functioning in an optimal way to support the demand on the venue. And then, as I also mentioned, supporting the development of a renewed public arts strategy and thinking about, emerging priorities of public arts role in city building, looking at this through the EDI lens, and obviously how it can contribute to broader placemaking efforts as well. The second bucket is around investment. So this is really focused on the City of Kingston Arts Fund. And so you'll be hearing mostly from Nicole on this as the Executive Director of the Arts Council. But this committee is responsible for providing feedback on the annual plan for administration and also approving and endorsing the plan for administration before it sort of goes up the chain to the Arts, Recreation, and Community Policies, and then finally to Council. The other piece is around participating in a long-anticipated city-led review of the City of Kingston Arts Fund that really is going to look at what are the evolving needs of the community, how has the arts sector grown since the fund was first launched in 2007, and how does it need to adapt to better serve those needs. Next slide. And so finally, the ongoing program. So this is really where the working groups exist, because they support, again, ongoing programs from Arts and Culture Services. And so the first one, which we'll be talking about today, is the Art and Public Places Working Group that supports the city's public art program and implementation of that. The second one, which we'll also be speaking about today, is the Local Music Working Group. This group is made up of community members and Arts Advisory Committee members, and is responsible for selecting 30 musicians to feature on these annual city playlists. And then the other working group, which is sort of something we deal with later in the spring, is around the Mayor's Arts Awards Nominations Working Group. Again, this group is made up of a combination of community members and Arts Advisory, and it's responsible for selecting 5 recipients for the annual Mayor's Arts Awards program. So just to close, so obviously this is very much Arts and Culture Services driven priority work, but members of the Arts Advisory may also identify initiatives that could be considered for work through this committee. But of course, we have to sort of assess them through looking at the various priority of work and availability of resources and time of members and staff. It has happened in the past where members have brought forward priority projects that have become part of the work plan for the Arts Advisory. So I just wanted to make sure that the committee knew that was possible as well. And then I'll also just share that City Council, the new City Council, is currently going through its strategic planning process. And so that process, there may be outcomes that impact Arts and Culture Services, and ultimately also impact this committee if there's a chance for us to work collaboratively with this committee on those various priorities. So we will be keeping this committee posted of the outcomes of that strategic planning process. And that's it. Thank you very much. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Colin, would you like to jump in?
Thanks, and thanks, Danica, for such a thorough overview. I just wanted to expand on a couple of points for people's awareness and benefit that are also touched upon in the report that you received. Just to highlight the fact that there's a significant portion of the department's budget that is basically flow through funding. So the money that we release to the Arts Council for the City of Kingston Arts Fund, and also the money that we invest in the Kingston Arts Council and organizations like the Kingston Theatre Alliance. And I mention that because, and even our relationship with the TET board and staff, it's very much about trying to expand the reach and impact of city resources out to benefit not just the arts sector, but residents who then interact and engage with the kind of program and arts-based opportunities that those partners deliver. So that's a really important part of kind of the ecology or landscape that we're part of. So I just wanted to flag that. And the other thing I just wanted to mention, which is touched upon in the report, because this has often been a question in the past, is the relationship between Arts and Culture Services, the Arts Advisory Committee, and the Kingston Arts Council. And sometimes it's not necessarily clear what that relationship is. So, as we've talked about, our role is as this community cultural development agency as part of the city. And then the Arts Advisory Committee is very much this conduit between city staff and council out to the larger arts community to help, read, engage with, and inform and challenge even some of the city policies and programs to make sure that they serve the needs of the community. And then the Kingston Arts Council is an organization that exists arm's length from the City of Kingston, even though we're one of their primary funders. Nicole is here by virtue of her position with the Kingston Arts Council, and they also have the opportunity to appoint community members to this committee, including some of you who are around the table today. But they also have an advocacy role. So that is unique to the Kingston Arts Council. So that is part of their mandate, is to take that more active role. So they have that advocacy piece, the Arts Advisory has the advisory piece, and then we as city staff fulfill that function of being that embedded community cultural development agency. So I just wanted to clarify that if there was any questions about the relationship amongst these three sort of entities. Thanks.
That's great. Thank you, Colin. And thank you, Danica, for that presentation. It was very in-depth and informative, and is very exciting to see the priorities for this year. Does anyone else have any questions or comments before we move on? Les, yes.
Just a detailing thing. Danica, is it possible for us to get a copy of the slides at some point? That'd be awesome.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You'd probably already planned that. In fact, it queued it up. Knowing
No,
you,
that's good.
but I'd ask. Okay.
I will share through Elizabeth. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Danica.
And sorry, just going back to Matthew's earlier question, the report does include an exhibit, which is the schedule of meetings for this year. So as was indicated, obviously this committee meets bi-monthly, and the report identifies what are anticipated to be some of the agenda items at those various meetings, the November one in particular being important because of its relationship to the City of Kingston Arts Fund. But it also exists that at the pleasure of the chair, other meetings can be called if needed, if something were to come up. But we anticipate that there would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 meetings in 2023.
That's great. Thank you. Okay. So as Colin mentioned, the report for the Commissioner of Business, Environment and Projects is attached. So we have that. And I believe we can just move right along within the business. So working group appointments, we'll start with the local music working group. So do I hand this back to you, Danica, or yeah? Okay, great.
Thank you, Brianne. So yes, we have a couple of working groups on the agenda today. The local music working group, as I mentioned in the presentation, helps to select 30 musicians to be featured on city playlists. The timeline for those playlist launch is generally June. So it's sort of the work in the first half of this year. Everyone who's been a part of this working group has always really enjoyed it, especially if you are a lover and supporter of music. And I was really happy to hear some of the new members too speak about their connection to music. It's really a chance to learn about the breadth of musical talent here in Kingston. We typically get anywhere from like 80 to 100 submissions. So it really is a listening experience for this working group. So we have, this working group is made up of 5 to 7 members, and we must have at least 3 arts advisory committee members, including 1 counselor, Counselor Shaves. However, we also have some community members that I'm going to put forward to this committee for consideration to be appointed to this working group. So I'll start with that and then open it up to the committee to see if there's anyone who would like to sign up to be a part of this working group this year. So the community members we have are Josh Lyons. So Josh is a local musician and videographer here in Kingston. Georgina Riel, who's an Indigenous cultural consultant. Daryl Bryan, who is a pianist, composer, conductor, and educator with Queen's University. And then Dinah Jansen, who is the station director for CFRC through Queen's University. So that is our current working group. Everyone has expressed interest in being part of this working group this year. So we just need to fill the final Arts Advisory Committee positions at this time. And I'm happy to have any feedback or thoughts too about the folks that have been put forward as well. Mark, sorry, Brianne.
Can you remind me what like are the ones chosen, are they compensated for their, and if so, what is it again? Is it like $100 per song or something like that? Is that
Yeah,
right?
thanks, Mark. It's all selected artists receive an honorarium of $150 for use of their track through these playlists. So they're featured there. We do various promotion around these musicians through social media. And we sign a license agreement with them that basically allows the city to use this track for these specific purposes. But they do receive an honorarium if selected. Yeah.
Okay. And sir, one more thing, because I kind of know this program, but I've forgotten a few of the pieces. It's featured like in the Invista Center, call waiting, and like a few other areas as well. Is that still the same as it was last year and the year before?
Yeah, so there are different platforms. So we first of all host them on the City of Kingston website, and SoundCloud, which is sort of houses the playlist there, and then they're shared through the City of Kingston website. We also have some of the tracks featured on our call waiting system as well. We also have partnered with Tourism Kingston in the past and their Visit Kingston music website. That's going to be a priority for us this year as well, to get the playlist embedded within the Visit Kingston website. And then we find different opportunities for them to be played at city facilities. So yes, Invista Center was one. We've also done and streamed them here at Springer Market Square in downtown Kingston. And we're always open and looking for new opportunities to feature the playlist. So also open that up to the group, that these can be used in that way if there's interest.
That's great. Thanks for those questions, Mark. That was really helpful. Councillor Chaves, do you have a question?
Yeah, and to clarify, it's Shaves with a SH sound.
Chaves, thank you.
I guess I've been voluntold by Danica that I'll be part of this working group, to add to my list of duties. That's okay. I see that big smile. Maybe Danica, I don't see too many hands going up. I see one, but maybe you could share also, because there may be a hesitation to join due to timeline. Maybe you could tell everyone maybe what the time commitment might be to be on this working group.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Shaves. And the timeline generally for this, again, if we can appoint the members today, they have to still go up through council. And so we really begin work sort of in April. The submissions, the deadline for submissions closes sort of mid-March, at which point our team will provide the working group members with access to the submissions, as well as sort of an evaluation form. And basically the process is that the working group members individually go through the listening process of the submissions, make some initial rankings based on the eligibility criteria that we have established for this program. And then we come together for a brief meeting to sort of look at the top ranked submissions and come to a conclusion and a consensus around who to include this year. It's really, again, depending on how much time, how working group members want to go about this. Some do it in sort of one sitting and push through over the course of a weekend, just listening to the various tracks. Others have chosen to do it over the course of a couple of weeks, but we really focus on wrapping up this project sort of from April to June. But again, it's not a consistent time commitment through those 2 months. But again, it depends on the number of submissions and how much listening is required for that.
So there is a flexibility of someone's schedule and time.
Absolutely, yes.
And they could also be listening to the music while doing other work.
It's a great suggestion. Yeah.
Maybe that will help raise some hands.
Thank you.
That's great. Thank you. Elena, would you like to volunteer? Do you have any questions?
I'd like to volunteer if there's space available.
Awesome. Thank you. And Mark, is that a volunteer hand as well?
Unmute myself here. Maybe I'm kind of doing something very similar right now with the Spring Reverb Festival that we're organizing. We're going through close to a couple hundred submissions. So I'm just wondering if there'd be somebody else that may want to help curate this. If not, I'd be happy to get involved. I've actually never, I don't think I've ever taken part. I actually just had one more question though. And it was just in regards to potentially putting the playlist on something like Spotify or something like that. Would there be additional, I know just where I work, we always have Spotify playlists going. I just don't know the economic kind of back end to Spotify, but whether or not there'd be additional financial incentives for artists to be involved through something like Spotify, where I don't think it's very much, but artists can get paid additional funds through being streamed on Spotify, or even something like, and this is that doesn't seem like it would be maybe too much of a lift, but maybe even like looking ahead, sorry, I don't want to derail this conversation, but maybe even doing something with a small video component where it could live on YouTube as well. Because I know there's some financial incentives for streaming on YouTube as well. But anyways, that second part was just more of just a broad strokes thought, but I guess more imminently, maybe something like Spotify. I was just wondering if that would be an option to put these songs on Spotify as well. I feel like it might get more plays there. That's all.
Yeah, I mean, thank you, Mark. I think I can put those on my list to look into in terms of what would be the considerations we'd have to embed into the license agreement with the musicians selected for Spotify, and think about this video component. I think, we are always looking for ways to amplify the reach of YGK music and provide additional opportunities for those selected. Like during COVID times in those early years, we did also do some programming and presenting of the musicians featured as part of YGK music in Springer Market Square. So I think there's room for us to continue to expand the different avenues of promotion for the musicians. So I will look into those two pieces.
I realize I didn't take my hand down there, but just if there's nobody else that's interested in getting involved in this, I will do it. And I guess what I meant off the top, I'm curating something else right now. I don't want to be curating all the Kingston artists that are getting chosen for various things right now. So if there's nobody else, I'd be interested, but I'm also happy to give the spot to somebody else if there's anyone else interested. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Mark. Les, would you like to jump in?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I would love to do this too. I won't lie, April to June is a really banana pants season in the college sector, like utterly banana pants. And so, and having Josh Lyon we've already got a bit of a St. Lawrence edge on that because he's a key part of our music and digital media gang. Frankly, I'd be happy to be a part of any of these committees. And I think it's trying to figure out, the best point. But if you're stuck, I can do it, but it's a bit of a wild time in my own calendar. But anyway, so I'm in the wings as you see fit.
That's great, thank you. And Councillor Shaves, would you like to jump in?
Just a suggestion. Maybe we did this with nominations as well. Maybe we could have like alternates. If someone had put their hand up, wanted to be on the working group, and for some reason something came up and they weren't able to, we can always jump into and use an alternate. Just a suggestion.
Great, that's a great suggestion. I also would love to be part of this working group. If time is a worry and we need another person, I'm happy to volunteer. And then maybe Les and Mark, if you both want to be in the wings, just in case. I'm happy to step in. And then is that our 3 representatives then from the committee? If everyone's okay with that, if anyone else really would like to step in, that's absolutely fine as well. Okay, great. So I believe, oh, Elizabeth, I see you're jumping in. I believe we need a formal approval of everyone, correct?
That is correct. I just wanted to get confirmation from Danica that having the alternates works all right with how the working group has been structured.
Yeah, I mean, thanks. We've never done alternates, so I'm not sure how, again, Elizabeth, maybe this is back to you a little bit, like, I'm not sure how that would be reported, and because, again, these names go up to council for approval. So I'm not sure if it's sort of something we can add in or just sort of keep as our own sort of internal process, but we've never had the alternate piece through this working group. So I'm not sure.
Okay, I guess just in terms of answering that, Danica, it's certainly wording that we can place into the motion that both Mark and Les be considered alternates, and just include that in the motion that goes forward to council, as long as that works for how the working group functions, is what I'm just making sure.
I think that works. Again, we have the terms of reference and the number of members to include, but I think given the situation of some of the current members, if we can include that wording, I think that's absolutely fine. Sure.
Great, thank you. So moving forward, I guess we'll do a formal motion of approval for the names listed. I did write them down, so Danica, please let me know if I get any of the community members' names wrong. But this is to appoint 7 members to the local music working group. So that will be Josh Lyon, Georgina Rial, Daryl Bryan, and Diane Jansen as community member representatives. And then Councillor Shaves, Elena Baker, and myself, Brianne Franklin, to the local music working group. So can we please have a mover to approve that list? Thank you, Les. And a seconder, Alicia, thank you. And all in favor? Great. Thanks, everyone. And then I'm not sure whether we need to approve any of that formal language regarding the potential of alternates, but just let me know.
I included it within that vote.
Oh, awesome. Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, so we can move right along to the Art and Public Places Working Group. Back to you, Danica.
Thanks, Brianne. So the Art and Public Places Working Group, yes, is the second working group on the agenda today. This working group supports the public art program. It meets 6 times a year, so every couple of months, and it generally is sort of an hour and a half in length in terms of the meeting. This working group also, similarly to the other working groups, I should have mentioned this, does provide the Arts Advisory Committee with regular updates through minutes, which is also on the agenda today. We do have minutes from the December meeting of this Art and Public Places Working Group. And it's made up of 7 to 9 members. So again, a bit of a bigger working group than the local music working group. It's a mix of different representatives in terms of artists in the community, curators, members of the Arts Advisory Committee. So it's a mix. There is no council representative on this particular working group within the terms of reference, but today is a chance for us to put forward the names of the potential members of this working group, again, similarly to the local music working group, for review and approval. We do have 2 spaces for the Arts Advisory Committee members. Currently and previously, Alicia and Era have been sitting on this working group, which has been amazing. But of course, we can open it up to the group to have a conversation if there are any others who would like to participate. So again, I'll give the names of the folks that have come forward within the community who would like to continue on in this working group, and then we can open it up for discussion. So the first is Gabe Chung. Gabe is a local artist here in Kingston. M. Harmson is one of the community reps. She also works within the sort of the creative industries herself. Nicole Daniels. So obviously, Nicole joined this working group prior to being at the Kingston Arts Council and being a part of this committee. So again, plays a bit of a dual role there, but Nicole, as mentioned, has been involved in some public art projects here in Kingston. Devin Ostrom is our additional member. So Devin is doing his PhD at Queen's. He's an accessibility in the arts advocate and co-founder of accessart.ca, which is really around improving benefits to public spaces through that accessibility lens. John Geronimus is also part of this working group. So John is the principal architect at Raw Design Inc. So he is the part of the architecture team that has recently done the renovation at the Broom Factory within the Inner Harbor area. And so he brings that architect landscape design lens to this working group. Mary Jo Currier is the ED of the Downtown Business Improvement Area. The DBIA is also engaging in various public interventions and public art projects, primarily in the downtown core. So having that connection there has been great. And then, as mentioned, Alicia and Era have also been a part of this working group. So maybe we'll, again, happy to answer any questions about the working group itself, other sort of questions about the folks that are coming forward, and then if anyone would like to come forward to participate this year.
Thank you, Danica. Does anyone have Christiane? Yeah.
Hi, Danica. Could you give kind of a similar overview in terms of frequency of meetings for this group and timelines of deliverables, things like that?
Definitely. So this working group meets 6 times a year. So every other month we get together, and it's a pre-existing scheduled time. Obviously we can adapt that to meet the needs of any new working group members. The working group really comes together to support ongoing work of arts and culture services through public art. It brings forward, similarly to this committee, information, opportunities, challenges within public art in Kingston that we should be aware of. And it's very it varies in terms of the additional work that happens. An example of something that we did recently where we had some members of the working group supporting different sort of projects was we looked at an existing public art platform we have here in Kingston to try and think about how does it need to be revisioned, how does it need to evolve to support the community, but there's no sort of structured additional work other than being at these meetings, participating in those conversations. And then if things arise, working group members can sort of volunteer their time if they want to continue to help in those more specific project areas. But it is a 6 times a year meeting schedule. The meetings are, again, generally an hour and a half long. So I hope that's helpful.
Sorry, Danica, just to follow up there, I'd be happy to volunteer if Alicia or Ara are not interested in continuing, or similar to the discussion about the YGK music as an alternate.
Thank you.
Great, thank you, Christiane. Does anyone have any more questions or comments? Great. So we will have a formal approval of that list. If we do need to read it again, Danica, I might ask for you to read the names, and then we can have a formal approval.
Definitely. I just want to, sorry, if I may also just ask a question, I guess, of Alicia and Ara. I'm sorry, you're on this list, and I assumed, that you'd be interested in participating again, but wanted to make sure you had a chance to comment on this if you'd like to continue or how you'd like to go about this.
Yeah, sorry, I wasn't sure if we needed to say yes, we would like to continue. But yes, I would be happy to continue on that working group.
I would also be happy to continue as well.
Great, thank you both. Okay, so can we have a formal motion or approval of the list that Danica provided? Can we have a mover? Christiane, thank you. And a seconder? Les, thank you. Perfect. Thanks, everyone. All right.
Sorry,
Elizabeth?
Brianna, if you could just call the vote. That would be.
Sorry.
That's all right. Thank you so much.
And all in favor. Great. Thank you, everyone. Sorry about that. Perfect. Okay, so moving right along. Do we want to go over the Art in Public Places Working Group minutes? Do those require formal approval as well?
I can take that. When we do typically ask for a motion just to receive them, just as an acknowledgement that the committee has received those minutes. So unless there's any questions about the minutes, we can just have a mover and a seconder to receive them.
Great, thank you, Elizabeth. Does anyone have any questions or comments regarding the minutes? No? Okay, that's great. So can we please have a motion to receive the minutes? Thank you, Councillor Chaves. And a seconder? Matthew, thank you. All in favor? Great. Thanks, everyone. Okay, and then again, moving right along, any motions?
We do not have any motions for today.
Perfect. And I see same with notices of motions. None for today. And other business? Yes, Colin.
Elizabeth, I don't know if this is appropriate. I just wanted to flag that one of the things that Danica highlighted in our presentation is the opportunity for this committee to invite people to give delegations. And given the fact that there would be 4 meetings left coming up this year, if there are any people or organizations or issues that this committee would like to see addressed through a delegation, we can certainly help support that as staff if that was something people wanted to identify either today or at a future meeting.
That's great. Thank you, Colin. So if everyone wants to think about that, if anyone has any that they'd like to present today, please feel free. And if not, we can reconvene at our next meeting. Great, thank you, everyone. Correspondence. Don't believe there's anything under that category for today either. And then the date of our next meeting is on Thursday, May 11th at 9:30 a.m. And I will call to adjourn if no one else has any other questions or comments before we conclude today. Okay.
Sorry, can
Nicole?
I jump in? I believe Danica and I both have a commitment on that day. So I just wanted to flag that. I don't know what next steps are. Danica, maybe you can advise.
As we said it, thank you, Nicole. I realize what we're doing that day. So I will maybe just chat with Elizabeth and we'll just have a look at some other possible meeting times to make sure that we can make it work for that May meeting. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Danica.
Great, thank you both. Okay, so next meeting time will be determined at a later date. Okay, so call to adjourn the meeting at 10:33. Again, Elizabeth, do we need a motion?
Mover and
yes, okay,
yes, please.
Motion to adjourn, please. Can we have someone to move that? Thank you, Matthew. And second, Alicia, thank you. That's great. Thank you so much, everyone. And I really appreciate everyone's patience as I get to learn how the process goes. So
Great job,
thank you,
Brianne.
everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Great job. Counselor, if you'd like to say something before everyone jumps off.
Do we not need to actually vote on the adjournment
Yes.
officially?
All in favor for the adjournment.
All in favor, sorry.
It's okay.
That's okay.
Thank you,
As I mentioned,
Counselor Shaves.
it's a learning curve, and Elizabeth is good in catching and letting you know, so it's all good.
You did great, Brianne.